Human watches alien girl heal a creature, but human sees the wound appear on himself. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get back to the story. Ethan Turner was deep in the alien forest, the cool, moist air of the strange world wrapping around him like a thick blanket. His boots sank slightly into the soft, purple-tinted moss as he navigated the uneven ground. The bioluminescent plants of this alien planet bathed the path in soft, eerie light, casting long shadows that danced with the wind. The sounds of unfamiliar creatures echoed in the distance, but it was the steady crunch of his boots on the moss that filled his ears. As a biologist and field medic, Ethan had been assigned to study the native flora and fauna of this uncharted world. But today, he found himself lost in a situation he never could have anticipated. He had been following the trail of a rare creature, an animal capable of healing others, when he stumbled upon a clearing where an alien girl was tending to a wounded animal. Talia was a striking figure, her pale silver skin shimmering under the moonlight as she knelt beside the creature, her hands glowing faintly with an ethereal energy. Ethan froze, unable to look away as the creature's wound slowly closed under her touch, the glowing light fading as the injury disappeared. The sight of it was mesmerizing, but it also left Ethan with a sense of unease. There was something undeniably powerful about Talia, and Ethan couldn't help but be intrigued. He had read reports about the healing abilities of the native species, but to see it in person was something entirely different. He slowly stepped forward, careful not to disturb her or the delicate balance of the moment. But as he watched, something strange happened. He felt a sharp sting on his own arm, as if the creature's wound had transferred itself to him. Ethan gasped, looking down to see a small, raw gash appearing on his skin, exactly where the creature had been injured. He stared in disbelief, his breath catching in his throat. It wasn't possible. He had no idea what was happening, but one thing was clear. This alien girl, this healer, had somehow shared the wound with him. Talia looked up then, her piercing violet eyes meeting his. She was startled at first, but quickly composed herself. "You felt it, didn't you?" she asked, her voice calm but laced with curiosity. Ethan nodded, his mind racing as he tried to make sense of what had just happened. He had been exposed to the alien energy before, but this was something entirely new. I don't understand," he stammered. Talia stood slowly, the soft glow of her hands fading as she took a step toward him. "The healing is not always one-sided," she explained, her voice soft but filled with a wisdom far beyond her years. "Sometimes, the energy can flow to the one who watches, especially if the connection is strong enough." Ethan felt his heart race as he looked at the small wound on his arm, the skin still raw and tender to the touch. It wasn't just the physical sensation that unnerved him. It was the deeper, more unsettling connection he felt to this alien girl. Something about her presence, the way she seemed to control the flow of energy, made him feel both drawn to and distant from her at the same time. "You shouldn't have to bear this," Talia said, her voice filled with an almost apologetic tone. "It wasn't my intention." Ethan looked up at her, his confusion deepening. "Then why?" "Because sometimes," Talia interrupted, her eyes softening, "the healer and the healed are one and the same. You watched, and in doing so, you became part of the healing process." She reached out gently, her fingers brushing against his wound, and the glow of her energy flared once more. The sensation was warm and soothing, but also strangely unsettling. Ethan could feel the connection growing between them, and for a moment, he forgot all about his role as a scientist, as a man of reason. He was simply a man, standing in the presence of something extraordinary, something he couldn't quite understand. Talia's gaze softened as she stepped back, her expression unreadable. "I didn't mean for it to happen like this," she murmured, almost as if she was apologizing for something beyond her control. Ethan wanted to ask her more, to understand the strange connection they now shared, but for the first time in his life, he was at a loss for words. As Ethan stood there, still reeling from the strange occurrence, His mind raced with questions. The wound on his arm was fading, the discomfort ebbing as Talia's healing energy continued to work its way through his body. But the connection between them remained, lingering in the air like an invisible thread. He looked up at her, unsure of how to break the silence. "I didn't expect any of this," he finally managed to say, his voice low, almost hesitant. Talia's eyes softened, a hint of empathy shining through her otherwise calm exterior. "Nor did I," she replied quietly, her voice like a soothing melody. "But sometimes, when we open ourselves to the energy around us, things happen beyond our control." Ethan nodded, though he still wasn't sure what that meant for him. He had always been the logical type, the scientist who relied on evidence and reason. But this felt different. It felt like something that defied explanation. As they stood there in the clearing, the sounds of the alien forest echoing around them, a sudden sense of calm washed over him. Despite the uncertainty and the strange bond he felt with Talia, he couldn't help but feel a sense of peace in her presence. Talia stepped back, her gaze shifting to the creature they had been healing. It had risen to its feet, its fur now smooth and unmarred by injury. "It is healed," she said softly, almost to herself. "But there is still much I don't understand about what just happened." Ethan found himself drawn to the creature, his eyes scanning it with a new appreciation. It wasn't just the healing process that had fascinated him. It was the way it had connected them, the way his own body had reacted to Talia's energy. "Do you do this often?" Ethan asked, his curiosity getting the better of him. Talia turned to look at him, her violet eyes glimmering in the soft light of the alien moon. "Not in this way," she said, her tone guarded. "I have healed many, but never with such an intimate connection. I've never seen someone share in the healing as you did." Ethan wasn't sure how to respond to that. He had no idea why the energy had transferred to him, but a part of him felt that it had to be more than just a random occurrence. "It was different," he admitted, his voice steady. "But I think maybe it's not just the energy that's at play here. It's something more." Talia didn't reply immediately, but her expression softened as she looked at him. For a moment, it seemed as though she was considering something, weighing the implications of what had just happened. "Perhaps," she said slowly, her gaze lingering on him. "But the question remains, what happens next? What does this connection mean for us?" Ethan felt a pang of uncertainty in his chest. He didn't have answers, but he knew one thing for sure. There was something between them that neither of them fully understood. He stepped closer to Talia, his heart pounding in his chest. "I don't know what it means yet," he said softly, "but I want to find out." Talia's lips curled into a small smile, her gaze never leaving his. "As do I," she replied, her voice barely above a whisper. The moment hung between them, thick with the unspoken understanding that they were on the edge of something neither of them could fully comprehend. And yet, in that moment, neither of them could deny the pull they felt toward one another, a pull that transcended logic, science, and reason. Ethan knew that their journey together was only just beginning, and whatever lay ahead, he couldn't turn back now. Talia turned away, her eyes scanning the darkened horizon as if she were seeing something far beyond the alien forest around them. "We should return," she said quietly, her voice now tinged with a new sense of resolve. "There is much more to learn, and perhaps more healing to be done." Ethan nodded, his mind still racing as he followed her. As they walked together through the alien landscape, the quiet hum of the planet's strange life forms surrounding them, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that his life had just taken a turn he hadn't expected. The connection with Talia was unlike anything he had ever experienced, and despite the uncertainty, he couldn't help but feel a sense of purpose stirring within him. As they walked in silence, side by side, Ethan realized that whatever the future held, he wasn't ready to let go of the mysterious bond they had shared. It was only the beginning, and he was determined to see where it would lead. As Ethan and Talia made their way through the alien forest, the air thick with the scent of strange flora and the quiet hum of distant creatures, Ethan couldn't help but reflect on the strange turn his life had taken. Just hours ago, he had been on a routine mission to study the planet's ecosystem, and now, here he was, walking beside an alien girl who had not only healed a creature, but had inexplicably shared that healing energy with him. He glanced over at her, her silver skin shimmering in the soft moonlight, and felt an odd mix of admiration and confusion. Talia was silent, her eyes scanning the darkened forest, seemingly lost in her thoughts. Ethan wanted to ask her more, to understand why this connection between them was so strong, but every time he opened his mouth, the words seemed to slip away. They continued walking in silence, their footsteps muffled by the thick undergrowth beneath their boots. The sounds of the forest seemed to grow louder the further they went, and Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. He had learned to trust his instincts over the years, especially in situations like this, where the unknown was constant. But with Talia, he felt a strange sense of calm. As they reached a clearing, Talia stopped and turned to face him. "We need to talk," she said, her voice steady but carrying an undercurrent of urgency. Ethan nodded, his heart quickening. He had a feeling this conversation was coming. "What's going on, Talia?" he asked, trying to keep his voice calm. "I don't understand what happened earlier. Why did the energy transfer to me? Why did I feel it?" Talia took a deep breath, her gaze meeting his. "It's not something I can easily explain," she said, her voice softer now. "The healing energy is a part of me, but it's not just something I control. It's connected to the planet itself, to the creatures that live here. And when someone watches closely enough, someone who has the right presence, the energy can transfer. But it's rare. It's never happened with a human before." Ethan frowned, trying to piece everything together. "So, you're saying that what happened between us, this connection, it's because of me? Because I was watching you heal that creature?" Talia nodded slowly. "Yes. It's like the energy recognizes the observer, and in turn, shares itself. But what I don't understand is why it happened with you. Humans aren't supposed to be able to connect with this energy." Ethan's mind was racing. He had spent years studying the biology of alien species, but nothing he had ever read or experienced prepared him for this. "So what does this mean for us?" he asked, his voice tight with the weight of the question. Talia's expression softened. "I don't know," she said quietly, "but I think it means something. Something important." Ethan felt a shiver run down his spine. He had no idea what he was getting himself into, but there was a part of him that couldn't turn back now. "I've never felt anything like this before," he admitted. It's as if something's pulling me toward you, and I don't know why." Talia stepped closer, her presence overwhelming yet comforting at the same time. "I know," she said softly. "I feel it too." The air between them seemed to crackle with a strange energy, something neither of them could fully comprehend. Ethan's heart was pounding in his chest, and for a moment, all he could do was look at her. Talia was more than just an alien. She was a mystery, one that he couldn't resist unraveling. "What happens now?" Ethan asked, his voice barely a whisper. Talia took another step closer, her eyes searching his with an intensity that made his breath catch. "Now we explore this. Together. But we must be careful. This connection, it could change everything." Ethan nodded, unsure of what exactly they were about to embark on, but certain of one thing. Whatever this connection was, it was only the beginning. As they stood there in the quiet of the alien forest, the wind whispering through the trees, Ethan felt a shift in his soul. He had never believed in fate, but in that moment, he couldn't shake the feeling that something greater than himself was at play. And with Talia by his side, he was ready to face whatever the future held. The air around them seemed to hum with the energy of their unspoken connection as Ethan and Talia walked deeper into the alien landscape. The dense forest gradually gave way to a wide clearing where bioluminescent plants glowed softly under the dim light of a distant moon. The gentle breeze carried the earthy scent of the moss and the faint tang of something sweet, something alien. It was a world far removed from the familiar comforts of Earth, yet for some reason, Ethan felt more alive here than he had in a long time. He stole a glance at Talia, whose presence was both calming and unsettling. Her silver skin gleamed softly in the twilight, and her violet eyes seemed to be searching the horizon, as if she were looking for something that was always just out of reach. Ethan's heart quickened, the connection between them growing stronger with every step they took together. He had never felt anything like this before. This pull, this undeniable force drawing him toward her. And yet, despite the bond they shared, there was still so much he didn't understand. "What exactly is this connection?" Ethan asked, his voice steady but laced with curiosity. Talia stopped walking, her eyes meeting his with an intensity that made his breath catch. "It's hard to explain," she said softly. "The energy that flows through me. It's part of this planet, part of my people. It's not just for healing. It's a force, an essence, that binds us to everything around us. And when someone like you is close enough, the energy can connect." Ethan frowned, trying to process her words. "But why me? Why did it happen when I was watching you heal the creature?" Talia's lips curled into a small, thoughtful smile. "I don't know. It's rare for it to happen with someone from another species, especially a human. But I think," she paused, as if choosing her words carefully, "I think there's something about you, Ethan. Something I can't explain. It's like you're in tune with the energy, even if you don't fully understand it." The weight of her words settled over Ethan like a blanket, warming him, making him feel both understood and utterly lost. "I don't know what I'm supposed to do with this," he admitted, his voice quieter now. Talia stepped closer, her presence enveloping him. "We don't have to figure it all out right now," she said, her voice gentle yet firm. "For now, we learn. Together." Ethan felt a wave of relief wash over him at her words. He didn't have to have all the answers. He didn't have to solve everything. Maybe, just maybe, he could trust in this strange, mysterious connection they shared. Talia reached out, her fingers brushing against his arm where the wound had once been. The touch sent a ripple of warmth through his body, and for a moment, he felt as though he was connected not just to her, but to the entire world around them. "What if we're not meant to understand it?" Ethan asked, his voice full of wonder. "What if it's just something that happens because we're here, together?" Talia's gaze softened, and for the first time, she looked vulnerable. "Maybe that's all we need to know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Maybe the answers will come in time." Ethan nodded slowly, feeling the weight of her words settle in his chest. He didn't know what the future held, but with Talia by his side, he felt ready to face whatever came their way. Together, they walked on, the strange world around them fading into the background as the connection between them grew ever stronger. As they ventured deeper into the unknown, Ethan knew that whatever this bond was, it was only just beginning. And he wasn't ready to let go of it yet. As the days passed, Ethan and Talia grew more accustomed to the strange world they now shared. The bond between them had only deepened, though neither of them could fully explain it. They spent their days exploring the alien landscape, studying the creatures and plants that thrived in this otherworldly place. Talia's healing abilities were becoming more refined, and she often used them to care for the wounded animals they came across. But there was always something more to their interactions. Every time she healed, Ethan could feel the energy, a pulse that resonated within him. At first, it had been a curiosity, but now, it was a familiar sensation. He could almost sense when the energy was about to flow, when Talia would work her magic on the creatures they encountered. The days were peaceful, but Ethan knew that peace was often a fleeting thing. The world they were on was vast, and there was still so much to learn. One evening, as they sat near a clearing, watching the sun set behind the mountains in the distance, Ethan found himself lost in thought. The sky was a deep purple, streaked with shades of gold and orange as the last of the daylight faded. The air was cool and crisp, and the sounds of the forest had quieted as the night began to settle in. "Do you ever wonder what's out there?" Ethan asked, his voice quiet, almost hesitant. Talia looked at him, her violet eyes reflecting the colors of the sunset. "I do," she said softly. "This world is vast, and yet, it feels small at times. Like we're on the edge of something much bigger." Ethan nodded, his gaze turning to the horizon. "I feel that too," he admitted. "It's like we're meant to be here, but there's more we haven't discovered yet." Talia remained silent for a moment, her expression thoughtful. "Maybe we're here to find those answers," she said finally. Together, Ethan felt a sense of certainty wash over him at her words. It was as if everything that had happened since he had arrived on this planet had led them to this moment. The connection between them, the strange healing energy, the pull he felt toward her, it was all leading them somewhere. But where, exactly, was still unclear. "You know," Ethan began, his voice quieter now, "I've never believed in fate. I've always thought that we make our own path. But with you, I don't know. It feels different. Like I'm supposed to be here, with you, learning from you." Talia's eyes softened, and she reached out, placing a hand on his. The warmth of her touch sent a shiver through his body, but it was a comforting warmth, one that felt like home. "Maybe we're both meant to learn from each other," she said gently. Ethan looked at her, his heart pounding in his chest. The words she had spoken resonated deeply within him, and for the first time in a long while, he felt a sense of belonging, not just on this alien world, but in his connection with Talia. "What happens next?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Talia smiled, her violet eyes shining in the fading light. "We continue," she said softly. Together. As they sat there, side by side, the night fully enveloping them in its cool embrace, Ethan felt a shift inside himself. He didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, he was ready to face it, whatever it was, with Talia by his side. And somehow, that made all the difference. Together, they would uncover the mysteries of this world, and perhaps, the mysteries of themselves as well. As the days passed, the bond between Ethan and Talia only deepened. Their mornings began with quiet walks through the alien landscape, the bright, unfamiliar stars overhead casting long shadows across the terrain. The planet they had landed on was a place of mysteries, strange creatures, glowing plants, and towering rock formations that seemed to stretch endlessly toward the sky. Despite the otherworldly beauty surrounding them, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that their presence on this planet had a deeper purpose. Talia, ever attuned to the energies of the world, seemed to sense it too. "The planet speaks to me," she had said one evening as they sat together beneath the canopy of luminescent trees. "It's alive, in a way that's hard to describe. Everything here is connected, and somehow, I feel like I'm meant to help it heal." Ethan had watched her closely as she spoke, her silver skin glowing softly in the dim light, her violet eyes reflecting a deep, almost otherworldly wisdom. He could feel the weight of her words, the sincerity in them. It was then that he realized. Her healing abilities were not just a gift, they were part of her very being, something intrinsic to her connection with the world. He had never been a man of faith, always relying on logic and science, but there was something about Talia that made him question everything he had ever known. Over the next few days, Ethan found himself more and more captivated by her presence. He was drawn to her strength, her gentleness, and the quiet confidence she carried with her wherever she went. There was something undeniably magnetic about her, something that pulled him in even when he didn't fully understand why. One afternoon, as they ventured deeper into the forest, Ethan found himself lost in thought. He had always been a man of action, quick to analyze, quick to solve, but with Talia, he felt as though time slowed down. "You're quiet today," Talia remarked, glancing at him with a knowing smile. Ethan's brow furrowed as he met her gaze. "Just thinking," he said, the words feeling heavy on his tongue. "About all of this. The connection we have, this planet, everything. It's like I'm meant to be here. With you." Talia stopped walking and turned to face him fully, her expression soft but serious. "Ethan," she said, her voice gentle but firm, "there's a reason we met. I don't know what it is yet, but I feel it too. And whatever it is, we'll face it together." Ethan felt his heart beat a little faster at her words. The idea of facing whatever was to come with her by his side brought him a sense of peace he hadn't known in a long time. As they stood there, the wind rustling the leaves around them, Ethan realized something profound. He had spent his life studying science, the laws of nature. But here, in the presence of Talia and the strange energies of the planet, he was beginning to understand that there was so much more to the universe than just what could be measured or explained. "What do you think is out there?" Ethan asked, his voice low, his eyes scanning the horizon. "Beyond this planet, beyond what we've seen." Talia's eyes followed his gaze, the same deep curiosity in her eyes. "I don't know," she said thoughtfully, "but I believe we're meant to find out. Together." The simplicity of her words struck him deeply. For the first time in his life, he wasn't concerned with the future or with what might come next. All that mattered was the present, the now, and the strange connection he shared with Talia. And as they continued walking, side by side, Ethan knew that whatever they faced next, whether it was the secrets of this planet or the mysteries of their bond, it didn't matter. Because they would face it together. As the days unfolded, the connection between Ethan and Talia continued to evolve. The more they explored, the deeper their bond seemed to grow, and with each new discovery, Ethan found himself more intrigued by the mysteries of this alien world. Talia, ever attuned to the energies that surrounded them, guided him through the landscape with a quiet assurance, her presence calming in the face of the unknown. They had seen many strange sights in their travels: floating rock formations, glowing rivers, and bioluminescent creatures that flitted through the air like stars, but none of it seemed as important as the bond that was slowly weaving them together. The planet, too, seemed to react to their presence. It wasn't just the creatures they encountered. It was the very landscape itself. The winds shifted when they walked, and the trees seemed to lean toward them as if curious about their every move. Ethan couldn't help but feel that their arrival here, their meeting, was no accident. Talia had mentioned before that the planet spoke to her, but now, Ethan was starting to believe it. There was something ancient and alive about this place, something that was deeply connected to Talia's power. One evening, as they made their way through a dense forest of towering blue trees, Talia stopped suddenly. Ethan, caught off guard by her abrupt halt, glanced up to see her looking out over the clearing ahead. Her expression was one of intense concentration, as though she were sensing something in the air. "What is it?" Ethan asked, his voice soft. Talia didn't immediately answer. Instead, she closed her eyes for a moment, as though listening to something far beyond their surroundings. Finally, she spoke. "I feel it," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "The energy here, it's stronger than I've ever felt before. It's calling to us." Ethan's heart skipped a beat. He had never seen her like this. Usually, she was calm and composed, but now there was an urgency in her voice that he couldn't ignore. "What does it mean?" he asked. Talia opened her eyes and turned to face him, her expression serious. "I don't know," she admitted, "but I think we're meant to find out." The intensity in her eyes matched the feeling that was beginning to stir within Ethan. It was as if the very air around them was vibrating with a hidden energy, beckoning them forward. Without another word, they continued on, moving toward the source of the powerful pull that Talia had sensed. As they entered the clearing, the landscape before them shifted. The ground beneath their feet was no longer solid earth but a smooth, shimmering surface, like glass, that stretched out toward a massive, glowing structure in the distance. The structure was unlike anything Ethan had ever seen, a towering monument, its design both intricate and alien, pulsating with a soft, rhythmic glow. It was as though the entire structure was alive, breathing in time with the energy of the planet itself. "What is this place?" Ethan asked, his voice filled with awe. Talia's eyes were wide, her usual calm replaced by a mixture of wonder and trepidation. "I've never seen anything like it," she said softly, "but I think it's what we've been looking for." They approached cautiously, each step echoing on the glassy surface beneath them. The closer they got, the more intense the energy became, wrapping around them like a living thing. Ethan could feel it now, too, a deep, pulsing force that seemed to reach into his very soul. As they reached the base of the structure, Talia stopped and placed a hand on the smooth surface. The moment her skin touched it, a surge of energy shot through the air, and the structure seemed to come alive. The glow intensified, casting strange, shimmering patterns across the ground. Ethan stepped back, his heart racing. "What just happened?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly. Talia didn't answer right away. She was staring at the structure, her face pale, as though she were seeing something only she could comprehend. "It's responding to us," she said slowly. "This place, it's connected to me. To us." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. There was something in Talia's voice, something that hinted at a truth they hadn't yet fully understood. "What do we do now?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Talia turned to him, her eyes filled with determination. "We continue," she said firmly. "This is just the beginning. Whatever this place is, whatever it's calling us to do, we'll do it. Together." With those words, they stepped forward, into the unknown, as the structure seemed to pulse and hum with an ancient power, guiding them towards something neither of them could yet fully understand. As they approached the glowing structure, Ethan's mind raced with questions. The energy that surrounded them was palpable, thick in the air, a presence that seemed to hum with ancient power. It was unlike anything he had ever experienced, a strange sensation that made him feel both insignificant and yet, paradoxically, more connected to the universe than he had ever been. "Talia," standing beside him, seemed to sense the same pull. Her eyes were wide with wonder, but there was a flicker of uncertainty there, a quiet hesitation that only Ethan seemed to notice. She reached out with a trembling hand, her fingers brushing against the smooth surface of the structure. The moment she touched it, a surge of energy rippled through the air, and for a brief moment, the world around them seemed to shift. The light from the structure intensified, casting long shadows across the ground, and the hum of the energy grew louder, like a distant, ancient song. Ethan felt it too now, an overwhelming sense of being drawn into something much larger than himself. The structure pulsed, its rhythm in sync with their own heartbeats. "What is this place?" Ethan asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Talia's eyes were fixed on the structure, her expression one of awe and trepidation. "I don't know," she replied, her voice shaking slightly. "But I think it's a doorway." Ethan turned to her, his brow furrowing. "A doorway to what?" She hesitated, her gaze never leaving the structure. "I don't know, but it's calling to us. I can feel it." There was a pause as they both stood there, the weight of her words settling between them. Ethan could see it now, the faint shimmer in the air, the way the structure seemed to resonate with something deep inside him. It was as if it knew them, knew their presence, and was waiting for something, waiting for them. "Should we go in?" Ethan asked, his voice steady, though the uncertainty was still there. Talia turned to him, her eyes meeting his with a deep, searching gaze. "I don't think we have a choice," she said softly. This is where we're meant to be." Without another word, they stepped forward, their feet moving almost in sync as they approached the base of the glowing structure. The closer they got, the more intense the energy became. It was as though the very ground beneath them was alive, humming with a power that was both inviting and terrifying. As they reached the entrance, a door formed before them, its edges glowing with a soft blue light. It was as if the structure itself recognized them, knew they were ready. Talia looked at Ethan one last time, her expression a mixture of resolve and uncertainty. "Are you ready for this?" she asked. Ethan met her gaze, his heart pounding in his chest. "I don't think we have a choice." With that, they stepped into the doorway. The moment they crossed the threshold, the world around them seemed to dissolve. The familiar landscape of the alien planet faded away, replaced by a vast, endless expanse of light. It was as if they were standing in the middle of a vast, cosmic ocean, the stars stretching out in all directions. Ethan's breath caught in his throat as he looked around, disoriented. "Where are we?" he whispered, though he wasn't sure if Talia could hear him. She was standing beside him, her face illuminated by the strange light that surrounded them, her expression just as stunned as his. "I don't know," she said, her voice barely audible. "But I think we've found what we've been searching for." Ethan could feel it now, the energy around them stronger than ever, filling him with a sense of purpose, a deep knowing that they were meant to be here. The world they had entered was like nothing he had ever seen, a place of pure energy, where time and space seemed to stretch and bend in impossible ways. He looked at Talia, his heart racing. Whatever this was, whatever they had just walked into, it was only the beginning. And somehow, he knew that the answers they had been searching for were waiting for them here, in this strange, cosmic realm. Together, they would face whatever came next, ready to unlock the mysteries that lay ahead. As Ethan and Talia stood in the vast, glowing expanse, the world around them seemed to pulse with a rhythmic energy. The stars stretched out in every direction, their light distant and soft, yet impossibly close at the same time. The ground beneath them felt solid, but the air was thick with an otherworldly hum, vibrating with an ancient power. Ethan's mind raced as he tried to process what was happening. He had always been a man of science, seeking answers through logic and reason, but this defied explanation. The air, the energy, the strange feeling that something was shifting deep within him. It all felt like a dream, yet it was too real to be dismissed. Talia stood beside him, her expression focused yet calm, as though she, too, was searching for answers, but accepting the mystery for what it was. Is this real?" Ethan asked, his voice quiet but filled with awe. Talia turned to him, her violet eyes reflecting the endless stars above them. "I think so," she said softly. "But I don't think we're meant to understand it all at once. This place, it's something beyond what we know." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of her words. There was so much they didn't understand, so much that didn't fit into the confines of his scientific mind. Yet, standing here, in this place, he felt as though everything was about to change. The energy in the air began to intensify, the hum growing louder, vibrating through his very bones. He could feel it now, deep within him, a connection, a pull that was unlike anything he had ever experienced. It was as though the planet itself was calling to them, urging them forward. "We need to go," Talia said, her voice steady despite the overwhelming energy that surrounded them. Ethan turned to her, his heart pounding in his chest. "Where?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Talia didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stepped forward, her body moving almost instinctively, as though guided by something unseen. Ethan followed her, drawn to her as though they were tethered by the very energy that surrounded them. As they moved deeper into the cosmic expanse, the air grew heavier, the glow of the stars intensifying with every step. Ethan's mind was a whirlwind of thoughts and questions, but one thing was certain: whatever this place was, it was a crossroads, a point of no return. They were on the brink of something profound. Talia stopped suddenly, her hand outstretched as she touched something in the air, a shimmering wall of light that seemed to pulse with the same energy they had been feeling since they arrived. "This is it," she said softly. "This is what we've been searching for." Ethan's breath caught in his throat as he stepped closer to the shimmering light. He could feel it now, a presence behind the light, something ancient, something powerful. "What is this?" he asked, his voice filled with wonder. Talia's hand lingered on the light, her touch reverent. "I don't know," she admitted, "but I think it's where we need to go." Without another word, she stepped forward, her body passing through the light. Ethan hesitated for only a moment before following her, his body tingling with the same energy that had been surrounding them since they arrived. The moment he crossed the threshold, the world around him shifted once again. The stars, the light, the hum, it all faded away, replaced by a vast emptiness. For a moment, Ethan couldn't breathe. The silence was deafening. And then, slowly, the light returned, softer now, but all-encompassing. They were no longer standing in the cosmic expanse. They were standing on solid ground, in a place that felt alive. Ethan looked around, his heart racing. This was unlike anything he had ever seen. The ground was made of smooth stone, but the air was filled with a soft glow, as though the very atmosphere was alive with energy. In the distance, he could see shapes, figures, shadows, or perhaps memories, moving through the light. "This is," Ethan began, but his words trailed off as he tried to comprehend what he was seeing. Talia stood beside him, her face unreadable, but there was a glimmer of recognition in her eyes. "This is it," she said quietly, her voice filled with awe. "This is where everything begins." Ethan turned to her, his heart pounding in his chest. He didn't know what this place was, or what was about to happen, but one thing was certain: he wasn't alone. Together, they would face whatever came next, and whatever answers awaited them in this strange, mysterious realm. The journey they had started was far from over. It had only just begun.